Good afternoon, everybody. So if you haven't met me, I'm Mr. Sembrano. I'm actually one of the social studies teachers here at San Marcos High School. I'll be one of the world geography teachers. So this video is going to help you navigate your way through our climate and biomes lesson. So if you're in class, you really don't need to watch this video. This is for those students that are doing online learning from home. So with that, again, if you're with your teacher during class time, you can follow along with the teacher to go over this information. Or if you went with the teacher and you just want to come back to this video for more clarification, you can. So with that, guys, I'm going to go into what the lesson is, how we're going to learn this together, and also just go over the information for climates and biomes. So from here, I'm going to start by sharing my screen, right? So here's what the lesson is going to look like. So you see a climate and biomes lesson. So again, you can read this if you want to, but it's just telling you, good morning, everybody. Today we're going to go over climates and biomes. I'm sure you are very unsure of yourself in terms of you hear these words like climates and biomes. You're like, Mr. Sembrano, what do these words mean? Guys, honestly, you've experienced different climates and biomes in your lifetime. You just didn't know what they were, but you've experienced it. For example, in Texas, the crazy thing is we experience a lot of different climates, more than we think, and you're going to experience different climates during different parts of the year as well. So when you hear the word climate, just know it has to do with the temperature range in a certain area, okay? And with climate also comes the amount of precipitation, which is rain, and it's going to go with just basically how hot or cold it is, temperature. So with climate, again, is it very hot? Is it cold? For example, in Texas, our temperature is very high in the summer, while in the winter, it's going to be a little colder. It will not be as cold as somewhere like, let's say, Canada, but again, it is colder than the norm. So from here, guys, again, you have instructions on what you're going to need to do. So for this lesson, you're going to need two things. Again, two. First thing will be the Climates and Biomes PowerPoint. So this is a Google Slides. You can click on it. You will not need to write anything down on it. This is just to help you get information about climates and biomes and what really caused them, right? So again, we've already kind of gone over roughly what these are, but climate, again, it's temperature ranges. Now biomes is the next step, and we'll get into more detail of it. But biomes, it's basically how a climate, the plant life, and the animals living in an area basically make up an environment. And there's different ones throughout the world, okay? So this is one of the things you need. I'm gonna go back now to my previous screen. And you're gonna see that you also have this biomes and climate activity. So this is gonna be the information or the worksheet that you're gonna turn in at the end of class. Now, when you create this, guys, you don't even need to make a copy of this because it's already set up on the cloud. Again, Google Cloud. So you'll click on it and you'll all get your own copy. So you can write on this, so you can, again, open it up in Google Docs and it'll pop up for you, okay? But this is where you're gonna answer a couple questions and you're going to do this assignment along with the PowerPoint. So you're gonna go through this PowerPoint to get information, right? And then as you're going through the PowerPoint, you're going to go back here to the assignment to answer certain questions. So again, in the end of the day, you're going to turn in this assignment, climates and biomes assignment, okay? So very good, so make sure you type everything in there. So let's go ahead and go through this together. We're gonna go through the slideshow together because it has majority of the information, okay? So the first thing, it comes to temperature and precipitation patterns, how they influence climate regions. So the first thing you got to understand, guys, is climate, again, is a certain weather. So it has to do with temperature and precipitation, big word for rain. So we got to ask ourselves, well, what causes certain parts of the world to be that certain temperature, to have that climate? So you need to learn. So there's something that causes climate. Climate's not always just this way. There's things that lead to it, right? And there's going to be an acronym for these different things. Just to let you know, these things are called physical processes. Okay, and you're like, well, Mr. Barber, these are big words. Just know, guys, there are things that are around the world that are going to affect, like I said, the temperature. So for that, we're going to go to the next slide. So here is the acronym. It's called LAME COWS. Now, that's kind of a weird acronym. But again, LAME COWS is going to stand for this. LAME COWS is the acronym for latitude, altitude, mountain barriers, Earth-Sun relationship, continental location, ocean currents, and wind currents. Now, guys, all of these things are physical processes that affect the climate, the temperature of an area. For example, latitude, which is where you at latitudinally on the globe. Altitude, for example, if you go to Colorado, especially if you go up to like Colorado in Denver, you're going to see a lot of snow. Even in the summer, there's going to be snow on their mountains. And it's not because Colorado itself is just always cold. It's because of the altitude. So the higher the altitude, usually the colder the climate. The lower the altitude, usually the warmer the climate. So for example, you're going to hear about a biome later on, tropical rainforest. That's usually low altitude with a high amount of precipitation, which leads to tropical rainforest. A lot of rainfall equals a lot of plants, rainforest. So things like that. So these are all things that individually affect, again, the amount of rain and the temperature of a region, which affects the climate, the weather. All right, so again, mountain barriers. This actually affects precipitation. Here's why, guys. If there's a large amount of mountains, it actually will block rain because it's harder for the rain clouds to get past it. There are also wind currents that deal with this because the wind currents will push against mountain barriers, and it's going to make it harder for clouds to go over certain areas. So, for example, a really good example is if you look at certain mountainsides, you'll see like one side of a mountain that has a large amount of vegetation, so trees, plants, flowers, and on the other side of the mountain, it could be barren. And you would say, well, why is that the case? Well, it's because, guys, the rain clouds don't get past the peak of the mountain. They rain on this side of the mountain, but it can't quite get over. So you'll see a large amount of vegetation on one side, not so much on the next. Sun-moon relationship. If you don't know this, guys, the Earth is going to tilt on an axis as the year goes along. And with that, the sun or the Earth will actually move farther away from the sun in certain parts of the year. That's why we have seasons. The Earth just doesn't know, oh, I'm going to get really cold around December and November and January, and just doesn't know to get hot in April through freaking September in Texas. It's actually the Earth rotating. So during the summer months, we are closer to the sun by rotating closer to the sun's rays, which in turn increases the heat, the temperature. Now, same time, during winter solstice here, we rotate away. That's why it's colder, because we're farther away from the sun's rays, which is why we have seasons, why it gets colder around that time of the year. And when you see spring and fall, those are kind of those in-between points where it's not quite as cold, not quite as hot. They're just kind of those in-between points. In some areas, those seasons last longer than others. In Texas, we get a semi-decent fall, and our spring just differs from year to year on how much time we get with it. But we usually have long summers in Texas, and it's because of our latitude. We're closer to the equator than other countries and other continents. Continental location. So literally, guys, there's 7 continents on the Earth. If you didn't know it, I know probably have talked about it this year. But these continents, guys, where they're located on the globe, it does affect the climate of a region. For example, one of the continents is Antarctica. That is on a polar ice cap. It is very cold because those polar ends, whether it's north or south, they're going to very much be away from the sun majority of the time. They're going to be far away from the sun all the time. That's why they have large amounts of ice, because the temperature is very cold. You have less sunlight, less heat. So that's why those climates are very cold all the time. So that's continental location. Good ocean currents. And guys, ocean currents affect, temperature. And if you don't understand this, if you ever go to Corpus Christi, you're going to be like, man, it's actually like if you go to the beach, it usually feels a little cooler there than what it would if you were in, let's say, 100 miles inland. And it's because ocean currents will bring either hot or cold weather with them. And then wind currents, again, they're going to bring hot or cold wind, which can affect an area's climate. And they can also affect rainfall. All right. If you need some more information, you can watch this video that goes into lame cow a little more. It's just kind of like a little rap poem that gets into that information. So from there, we're going to go into climate zones. So we talked about it. So physical processes, those lame cow terms, will now lead to the climate. So for climate zones, there's not as many. We're really going to look at a couple. But just so you know, so there's climate zones that go all around the world. And again, climate is temperature and precipitation. So those are the 2 real factors you're going to look at when it comes to climate. Okay? So for this, you're actually going to go ahead and click on this article, and you're going to use it to answer these questions, okay? Click on the article, and you're going to read through here to answer the questions on the assignment, okay? So again, we've already talked about this. So for lame cow, you go ahead and answer this question. So again, pick one of the factors that affect climate and explain why you think it does. Now we've already talked about it and I've touched on it. So this part, it's a pretty easy answer for you, but it's still an opinion question. You can pick any one. You can pick latitude, Earth-Sun relationship. You can pick wind currents. It is up to you. And from there, guys, when I ask you to explain, or any teacher, they want you to express your thought. They don't want you to just spit out what the teacher said. It's also what you think. Okay, we're trying to get your opinion. Good. So for there, again, you're going to read through that article right here. It talks about 5 main climate types on the Earth. And just so you know, guys, there are some places that will talk about different climate types, but we're just going to go with these 5 for now. Okay. Tropical, dry, temperate, continental, and polar. Okay. So you're going to go ahead and read through this. I'm not going to go into reading it because that's something you will do on your own, but it goes into what the climates are, and literally it'll go into the definitions of each one. And again, it'll go into the temperatures and it'll go into precipitation. Those are the 2 key parts to climate. Temperature, precipitation, which is rainfall. That lets us know what climate zone we're going to have. Okay? And it kind of also shows you right here on a globe how it'll go. Like I said, those polar caps are usually going to be polar. Sorry, I keep saying polar caps. The North and South Pole, they're going to be polar, which is more cold. You'll see the continentals, kind of these middle points that are purple. It's hard for me to see that word right there. Temperate, which is kind of like again, it's going to be this little middle part. They're going to have dry and then tropical, which means it's going to rain a lot. It's usually very hot and humid. So you're going to have higher temperatures. And you're going to have large amounts of rainfall in those tropical, climate area. Okay. So good. I will leave that to you for you to be able to do. And if you're curious in the U.S. what it looks like, you can look through here as well to look at different climate types. Okay. And again, once you read through this, you will answer these questions right here. So look at the map and look at the readings on page 8 and answer these following questions. So what is a tropical climate? What is a dry climate? What is a temperate climate? What's a polar climate? And you're writing your answer right here. Good? All right. And last but not least, we're going to go to biomes. Okay. So for biomes, that's the last part. So we've already gotten 2 parts of the equation, right? Think of this like a 3-part equation. Part 1, physical processes, right? That lame cow, those terms. That leads to climates, which is the amount of rain, precipitation, and temperature. Now the last part is going to be biomes. So what biomes are, again, it's a region that is classified based on plant and animal life with the climate. So the climate will help lead to a certain amount of plant life and animal life that live in this area. So it's just the interaction of all these things create biomes where living things, go about their business. So just so you know, not everything can live in certain biomes, right? Animals have to live in certain temperatures and climates that fit their needs best. Not all plants can grow in certain areas. So just so you know, they have to go and fit into those biomes that fit their species best, okay? So for that, I would like for you to click on this video and watch it. It's a little old school, but it does go into biomes and climates just so you can see it. And then after you've watched this video, you're going to then begin to anticipate and make an educated hypothesis, an educated guess to guess what biomes are going to come up at the end of this PowerPoint. So you'll click on it. Again, you'll have a YouTube video. Sorry, ads. Good. So from here, you'll go ahead and watch this video from the beginning, and it'll talk about climates and biomes. I'm not going to go ahead and play it. You can play that on your own. But from here, the last thing you're going to do, guys, is you're then going to guess the biome. So once you've gone through all those, you've looked at the different biomes from the video and from the slide previously, this one right here, you will then have to make a guess the biome, right? So from here, you're going to go ahead and look at certain areas. So I'm going to tell you, again, you're going to have a certain amount of precipitation and a temperature, and you're going to see a picture of the vegetation, so the plant life and animal life in the area. Usually it's going to be more plant life in these pictures. And you're going to make a guess, and you're going to write it in on your paper, right? Is it Again, is it wetland? Is it rainforest, right? Tropical rainforest? Is it desert? You know, any of those. Is it a polar region? Is it an oceanic biome? You're going to give me your best educated guess based on what you see. So again, the vegetation. Again, I have not put the rainfall and temperature on here on purpose, so don't worry, it's going to be on there whenever you click on it. And you're going to give me your best educated guess, okay? Good. So you can do it for different ones. So you'll do it for this one right here, biome 2, biome number 3, 4, 5, and 6. And when you're done with that, you're going to go ahead and turn in your paper. Okay, so that means you'll go back to your Canvas page. When you're done with everything, and you'll have whenever you're done, there's going to be a place where you can submit this work. And guys, that'll really be it. Okay, so once you finish all that information, you were done with today's lesson. If you have any questions, you can email your teacher regarding anything from the climates and biomes. But again, just a reminder, when it comes to this lesson, it's a large amount of information. But again, it just breaks down. So part 1 of the equation is physical processes, which leads to climate, which leads to the biomes, right? So anyways, guys, thank you for your attention. I appreciate it. Y'all have a nice day.